Yesterday, Arkansas received a recommitment from Trevon Brazil, who is one of the more polarizing, interesting players in college basketball. Certainly a talent. He had entered the NBA draft. Some people really thought he would stay in the NBA draft. He did not stay in the NBA draft. He announced that he was going to return to school, but not even return to school. He was back in the portal for a bit before reaffirming his commitment to his new head coach, John Calipari and the Arkansas Razorbacks. Brazil is extremely talented. I don't feel like we need to do a deep dive dissection on what Trevon Brazil is and what he brings to a team at this point. It's pretty clear. He's a poppy athlete. He can do some very wow moment things offensively and defensively. He's a good shot blocker, decent rebounder. But there's always been a feeling of like, what else is there for him? He had the serious injury his first year at Arkansas as a sophomore, started his career at Missouri, is coming off of his junior season, his third year at Arkansas, which his numbers went down from the year before he got injured, where he only played 9 games. But he averaged 8 points a game, 6 rebounds, just over a block a game last season, shot 35% from three on 2 attempts. Look, really fun player. I think it's good. It's a good sign that like Cal was able to get a guy who was flirting with the NBA. And I don't think a lot of people expected Trevon Brazil to end up back at Arkansas. So in that sense, this is a recruiting win for John Calipari. At the same time, this was the rumored destination for Coleman Hawkins. This was the rumored spot for Coleman Hawkins. And it appears that Coach Cal took Trevon Brazil at the expense of Coleman Hawkins. There is some debate on if that actually happened. Coleman and his father were on Twitter basically implying there was never serious mutual interest here, which is the opposite of what had been presumed publicly. So there's a lot to unpack here. Let's just start with Trevon Brazil back to Arkansas. Your thoughts?
So for starters, I just want to first talk to you about that 9 games that he played before he got hurt that first year he was at Arkansas. I was like, this dude's incredible. Like
Yeah.
he was blocking shots. He was knocking down the three-pointer at a high clip, 38%. He was dunking the basketball, rebounding. He was all over the place. Like we were looking at this, and we're like, wow, like Trevon Brazil is going to be an NBA guy, I think. Like, and he was on NBA radars before he did have that serious knee injury. And last year I didn't think went as well. To be honest with you, I just don't think he really looked right. And even in the games he played, like I don't know if he was fully healthy or even back. And then given the scenario with what Arkansas was as a team, maybe it just wasn't also the best scenario for him to come back. But is Coleman Hawkins a better player than Trevon Brazil? That's for like other people to decide. I personally think that Coleman probably brings a little bit more. But Trevon Brazil is probably at least probably I think like what half the price of him. Yes.
Is it really up for decision?
What?
Like, do we think it's a debate that who's better between Brazil and Coleman, or like, do we think it's a clear answer?
I think it's pretty clear, but
I
some
don't,
some
yeah,
might
I don't think there's a decision, would be all
you
I would say.
you don't think there's a few out there?
I think one guy has been ravaged by injury, and I don't think there's that much hope that there's like some pull a rabbit out of a hat bounce back there.
Uh-huh.
Like that's just if we're talking sophomore year healthy Trevon Brazil, it's a different conversation. But like this whole past season was really bad. He's clearly not the guy he used to be.
Right, true. It's a lot of, what's the word, like projecting or wanting him to be maybe something he might never be again.
Yeah.
But for me, the biggest part of this that bodes well for Arkansas is that they end up getting one guy back from that team who seems to be like the fan favorite. Everyone loves him, right? Like everyone's very happy that Cal came to Arkansas. They're happy with all these recruits he's bringing in, but there was so much turnover they didn't bring back anybody from last year's Arkansas team. And people will probably argue that they shouldn't because that team was bad. But I think getting a guy like Brazil back, who's a fan favorite, who can contribute, I think is a good vibes move in my opinion. Just because I think the fan base loves him, and you're not getting back just a total non-player. You're getting back a guy who can be productive, while also bringing back a guy that I think just it's not complete turnover, just a little tiny bit of last year's team, and a guy that I think fans like.
Yeah, I appreciate your perspective, your insight on this. It's not what I expected you to say. I don't know if the reception of like fans love this guy is actually accurate in my mind. I think like
It could be wrong. I'm going off purely like I saw that they said Brazil was coming back, and it seemed like everyone was like, and I want to say everyone, I'm just talking about social media perusing here. It's like,
okay.
got Trevon back, like can't wait for him to be back, and da 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 this, that, and the third.
Yeah. Maybe I'm just in different circles or follow different people. I saw more of like explaining why, okay, I guess this makes sense from Arkansas people rather than like, hell yeah, we wanted this. And this is not meant to like say I'm condemning Trevon Brazil. I think he is a piece. I think there's a chance he ends up like really being important to this front court because the big question with the Arkansas front court right now is like athleticism and rim protection. And like as good as Jonas Adu can be, he's not the most physical guy. He's not exactly a huge shot blocker. Big Z is definitely not that or hasn't been thus far. So like if Brazil is healthy, I think there's a world here where he ends up the best player in the Arkansas front court. It's a good ad. Like I'm not downplaying the fact that like I think this is a win for John Calipari and it makes Arkansas the basketball team better. With that said, I am intrigued and interested in the side of the reception because I have seen and heard more like, well, I guess like we chose not to have Coleman or the buzz was that they led for Coleman Hawkins, and maybe that's not true. More on that in a second, but I think like there is a contingent of Arkansas fans that are like explaining why this makes more sense rather than like running through a wall they're pumped about. I don't think many people saw this coming. And to your point on like it's good to have someone back, like it's a good vibes move. My only pushback would be I think last year's Arkansas team was so diabolically bad with vibes. I would want everybody out. I would want to wipe the slate clean completely. I don't think you want to return any remnant from that locker room. And I don't think Brazil was necessarily a huge part of the issues, but to me, it's one of those things where like, does getting one guy back from that locker room really do anything for your culture? Probably not, especially with Muss out and a new coach. And honestly, Kentucky's entire recruiting class in. Like this is a Cal team through and through. And now we're gonna have to imagine what Trevon Brazil looks like in a Cal culture. And maybe that'll work, maybe it won't. He's had some vets that have worked, he's had some vets that haven't worked, but he's a talented player for sure. The Coleman Hawkins side of this, we need to decipher if we think this is real or not. This is a tweet from, I guess, Sidelines Arkansas, which is like an Arkansas, I think it's a blog / fan account. Big follower.
Wait, G. Before you get into Coleman, can I say one more thing? I'm not gonna let you disrespect my guy Big Do like this. First of all, Big A Do. He averaged 2 blocks a game in 24 minutes. You called him not a rim protector.
Well, I'm going off the Kevin Sweeney tweet that was like the one big question for Arkansas is like physicality in the front court.
I mean, I guess with Big Z it is, but I have no concerns about Jonas Adu being physical. I think he is a pretty physical big man at his size and with his, I mean, I think the rebounding numbers and the block numbers speak for themselves on how, and honestly, shit, the foul numbers too, with how physical he can be. So,
Okay.
I
agree for the record. I
yeah,
don't mean to be mean about that.
no, you're good. Okay, back to the Coleman thing. I had to get that in there. I'm a big dude truther. You know this.
It's a great clarification from you. I think the more we talk this through, you got to be super in on Arkansas, man. Like I think I ranked Arkansas higher than you did. And like I feel like we're going personnel wise. You love everybody. You told me John L was the best player in the portal. You're telling me Adu's a star. You're telling me Big Z's a breakout guy. You love Trevon Brazil. You think it's a great culture ad. You like to do Thiero. Like,
all right, okay. Now that you say it out loud, the fact that you're going like Trevon Brazil is a great culture ad, I hate that, and I'm glad you didn't let that slide by me.
Okay,
That's all.
I'm making sure. So Sidelines Arkansas is the account, SSN_Arkansas. This was a tweet from yesterday afternoon after this news came out. John Calipari made it known early that even though we had the money, he didn't want players that were going to try and come here for a paycheck. We've now seen it play out 3 times with Jaden Quaintance, Kayshawn Pryor, and now most likely with Coleman Hawkins. That doesn't mean that Cal didn't want any of those guys, and he could have legitimately been beaten out for them. But he's proven that if you are looking for money and social media interactions, he's not afraid to look somewhere else. First off, this is very pointed at Coleman. I
Yeah.
mean, like, if you are looking for money and social media interactions, go somewhere else. That's directly at Coleman Hawkins from this account with 14,000 followers. Coleman took it personally, I think, as he should, and quote tweeted it with 3 laughing emojis. And then Coleman's father, Rod, jumped in the responses and said, I didn't know it was anything other than phone conversations to gauge interest on both sides. What's going on here?
I just want to make sure I understand this correctly. Is his father Hawkins saying that there was nothing more interest than just phone calls on both sides? That's it?
I believe that's how to interpret Rod Hawkins's tweet here is there was contact, but never serious mutual interest.
Yeah, I call bullshit on that. I think there was heavy, heavy interest on both sides. And maybe it didn't work out for whatever reason, but let's not act like this wasn't a thing or this wasn't ever gonna not happen. I mean, Coleman was even entertaining it, whether it be, trolling, laughing, joking level tweets or not. There was some acknowledgement of this, and I think that it was very well known that Arkansas was very much in and was going to try to make this happen. So I don't know about just calling this a simple game of phone tag. I think it was a wee bit more than that.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. I'm willing to give the Hawkinses the benefit of the doubt here. Like, I do maybe get the sense that it was misinformation, that everybody believed that Coleman's leader in this recruitment was Arkansas. Like, maybe that never happened. Maybe there was initial interest, but it was never like, oh, Arkansas is clearly going to pay him. My interpretation of this whole thing would just be this, and we're going to do a different Coleman conversation today to break down the 3 rumored schools that are still involved for Coleman Hawkins. Spoiler alert, they're not the schools you would expect. My interpretation is this. I think, like, if reports are to be believed, or if rumors buzz is to be believed, when Coleman hit the portal, there was a connotation attached to him of like, hey, don't even call me if you're not willing to pay me great Osobor money. And I don't know if that did happen or not. That's how I would play it. If I was Coleman Hawkins and I went in the portal at the time I did, I would tell everybody, don't call me unless you're going to pay me this number, which is a huge number. And my read on this is that all the schools we thought would pay the number were like, no, thanks. Like, I don't think this is a case of John Calipari saying, I would rather have Trevon Brazil than Coleman Hawkins. I think it's maybe that at the number Coleman Hawkins wants. And if there is a moment where mutual interest dissipated here that the Hawkins family says is true, my guess would be it was probably when numbers started being discussed.
Yeah. Also, I think the funniest part of this sideline Arkansas tweet, and I don't know if they get it yet because maybe he hasn't been the coach long enough. They know Coach Cal is their coach, right? Like they're talking about, oh, we're not about the social media interaction, looking for money. That your coach is Cal. Your coach takes his team to Drake's house every single year. He is a guy who likes social media interaction. He is a guy who likes to pay guys. So let's not act like you're like this isn't John Calipari we're talking about here.
Yeah, they wants to believe John Calipari is John Beeline right now.
And he's not. Let's not try to make him that.
Yeah. By the way, like that, like, oh, we're not into the social media interactions coming off a graphic that says run it back with Trevon Brazil. What are we running back? The worst, most toxic team in NCAA history? Is that what we're running back?
That would have been hilarious if we were part of the Arkansas social media team and we just say new run. Like new run.
I mean, like, to me, if you're gonna say run it back, like, you might as well put like corpses of every Trevon Brazil teammate next to him on the ground. Like Let me see Tremont Mark in a Texas uniform with his heart ripped out of his chest. Like, it's a mess to me. Although it was nice. They did the run it back because you could get the TB in the middle, Trevon Brazil, and highlight it red. That was a nice little
Okay,
stats
yeah,
touch.
that's hard. That's hard.
All right. Well, I still don't you feel like there's unknown at the end of this though? Like, not unknown for Arkansas, but unknown on like why? Why didn't Coleman Hawkins end up in Arkansas?
Yeah. The one good thing though is that we're gonna find out from somebody.
Because
It's like
Coleman's gonna tell.
it's gonna come to the light, whether it be Coleman's second cousin, whether it be Coleman himself, whether it be somebody, it's gonna come to the light.
How many more games does Arkansas win with Trevon Brazil than they would have without him? Just if they went into the season with 8 scholarship players without Trevon Brazil, how many wins is Trevon Brazil worth as the 9th guy?
Are we assuming that if it wasn't Trevon Brazil, it's going to be what Cal said, like he's rounded out with walk-on players?
Yeah, if it's not Trevon Brazil, it's nobody else.
He's probably worth like 3 wins.
How many wins would Coleman Hawkins have been worth in the exact same spot instead of Trevon Brazil?
Probably like 6 to 8.
That's a lot of wins.
Yeah, it is.
That's a lot of wins. I disagree. I think it's like 2 wins for Brazil, 3 wins for Coleman.
You think it's that close?
Small difference, yeah. I think Coleman's better. Coleman's clearly better, but like, this is like one player we're talking about. They already have talent. They have a good front court, and Brazil can do a lot of things that Coleman can do, presumably for less money. So, yeah, okay, all right, good job. Congrats, Arkansas fans. Woo pig. The NBA draft is coming up, and I've got something awesome for you. We are partnering with the people at NBA 2K Lab. NBA 2K is the best video game on earth. The people at 2K Lab are making some awesome stuff to make that game even more fun, and they just launched their 2024 NBA Draft Simulator, where you can find the official Sleepers Media big board. We ranked our top 75 players in this draft class. Me, Carter, Brian Ralph, Riley Davis. We did it together, and it is featured on the 2K Lab NBA Draft Simulator. You can take control of any team in the draft, play GM with just one click, and see our entire rankings before these videos even come out. Check out the link in the description of this video to try out the draft sim for yourself, and you can find more mini games at nba2klab.com/NBA-mini-games.